So picture this. You live in a condo, but right underneath you is a dead, empty ghost mall. For thousands of people, especially in parts of Japan, this isn't a hypothetical, it's their reality. A building design that was once celebrated has turned into a trap. And this isn't just about a few empty shops, it's a massive structural and financial nightmare. And it tells us a whole lot about the future of our cities.
So let's just dive right in. What is it about these condo over mall buildings, which on the surface seem like a pretty practical idea? What makes them ticking time bombs for the people living inside and for the communities all around them?
You know, this goes way beyond just a bad real estate investment. This is a full-on suburban horror story. We are looking at a system that has fundamentally hit a structural dead end.
Okay, so let's properly diagnose the patient here. We're talking about something called vertically separated buildings. The top floors, those are condominiums, owned by dozens, maybe even hundreds of different people. But the bottom floors are one giant commercial space. Think a shopping mall, designed from the start to be operated by a single company.
The entire concept, the whole reason these things were built, was based on one single critical assumption, that we would live in a world of perpetual growth, that the population would always go up and the economy would always expand. But what happens when that core assumption turns out to be completely, totally wrong?
So where exactly is the fatal flaw here? How did a blueprint that was supposed to guarantee prosperity become a blueprint for decay? Let's break it down.
I mean, just look at the difference. The original plan, on the left, was simple and elegant. The bustling mall on the bottom makes a ton of profit, and that money helps support the condo owners living up top. But the reality, on the right, it's the exact opposite. In an era of decline, the mall fails, it dies, and it becomes a financial black hole that literally sucks the residents down with it.
And this is what leads to something people have started calling maintenance hell. The income from the mall is totally gone, but the shared costs, we're talking elevators, fire safety systems, the really expensive stuff, those bills keep coming. And with hundreds of individual owners trying to get unanimous agreement to do anything, like redevelop or even just demolish the building, it's practically impossible. All it takes is one single no vote to trap everyone, and all the while the debt just keeps growing and growing.
So, is there any way out of this mess? Well, there's no magic bullet. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. The path forward really depends entirely on the specific building in its specific situation.
We have to completely stop thinking about finding a perfect cure. That's not on the table. The right way to think about this is like medical triage. You assess the damage, you figure out what's salvageable, and you apply the most realistic treatment possible. The goal is to manage the situation, not to pretend you can solve it forever.
So let's look at case one. If you're in an area where there's still a decent local population, you can try to repurpose that dead mall. Now, the goal here is not to make a profit. It is simply to minimize the financial bleeding. So you think about things like medical clinics or daycare centers or government offices. The absolute key is finding someone, anyone, who can at least cover those massive shared utility costs. This is basically life support, just prolonging the building's function for another 2 or 3 decades.
Case 2 is way more radical. This is for places where population loss is just unstoppable. Here, you have to accept that reality. You intentionally seal off the lower commercial floors. You sever their utilities from the residential part up top, and you shrink the building's entire operational footprint. It's a concept that's been called euthanistic reduction. And yeah, it's a harsh term, but it's about gracefully letting part of the building die in order to save what's left.
Okay, but what if the problem is just pure legal gridlock? That brings us to case 3. In this scenario, a public entity, or maybe a special fund, steps in and buys up all the fragmented commercial shares. This consolidates ownership into one single decision-making body that can actually finally take action. It breaks the deadlock. And the condo owners up above? They cooperate because in return, they get a path to reduced fees and a much more stable future.
The final option is the most extreme, but you know what? It's also the only truly permanent one. For buildings that have become a total liability to society, the only way out is to change the law itself. That means allowing demolition by a majority vote, not a unanimous one. And it means creating a public system that can absorb these negative value properties, buildings that literally cost more to maintain or demolish than they're worth. You have to start treating them like a crumbling bridge that needs to be removed for the public good.
And this is such a crucial way to reframe it. Tearing down these buildings isn't an admission of defeat. It is the rational, necessary settlement of a past design failure.
So when you boil it all down, what does this all add up to? Well, it adds up to an unavoidable and often really painful choice.
And to even be able to make that choice, a massive mental shift has to happen. In a declining economy, a building like this is no longer an asset that appreciates in value. It's a disposable good. It's a consumable with a finite lifespan, and its only real value is whether or not it can even be maintained.
So ultimately, there is no magic solution. There is no perfect ending for everyone. There are only 3 possible paths forward. You can extend its life, you can manage its decline, or you can liquidate it. That's it. Those are the options.
And here's the cold, hard reality of the situation. The most damaging choice of all is inaction. The longer you wait to face the problem and make a hard decision, the greater the financial and social damage will be.
You know, this one type of building is really a symptom of a much, much larger issue. It forces us to ask a fundamental question that we just can't ignore anymore. Our entire modern world was designed and built for constant growth. So how do we even begin to redesign our towns, our laws, and our expectations for an era of decline?